Hello, everybody. It's great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, founder of GSD, Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. With that, I have an incredible guest today. I'd like to introduce Jane Ollis. This is a very interesting technology. She's a medical and an incredible person, a medical biochemist, environmental scientist, deep tech founder and chairwoman of both healthcare and renewable energy innovation. She's a brilliant mind behind MindSphere and Sona, a neurotechnology platform that redefines how we train our nervous system and manage stress at its core. And I'm sure we've all had stress. That's why a lot of us have yoga. From interning at NASA to leading groundbreaking ventures in bioelectronics and clean energies, Jane's journey is a testament to what happens when science, compassion, resilience come together. And I would say also unleashing the potential of humanity. If you've ever wondered how stress affects the brain, what it takes to innovate in the health tech space, or how we can use technology to unleash human flourishing, this episode is for you. So with that, I'd like to bring Jane on board. Hi, Jane. How are you today?
I am very well, Gary. Very nice to be here with you. I'm here from in the evening. It's 6:30 in the evening here in London, and right behind me, I probably can't see out the window, but I am sitting opposite the Houses of Parliament. So we're here based in the London Institute for Healthcare Engineering on a beautiful English summer evening.
You know, I got to tell you, when I lived there, so I lived out by Paddington Station, and it was very interesting because I was coming from California and Florida, and I saw people laying in the park in Hyde Park, and it wasn't that sunny. It was kind of like cloudy, but it was like I couldn't believe they were laying out in the park like with their suits on, swimsuits.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. We have to take what we can get, and it's you've got to max out every opportunity.
So how did you go from NASA, to where you are today? How did that get you started? You did your internship there. Was it when you were undergraduate? You were in graduate school? When did you do that?
I was a postgraduate and had this amazing opportunity to go to NASA, to the Ames Research Center. It was actually there that I discovered actually I wasn't a great scientist, though, when it comes to the detail of actually doing the experimentation. But it gave me that absolute love for problem solving. And through my career and as a mother and somebody who, I guess, faces the challenges that life can throw at you, I thought, actually, what's the problem I really want to solve now in this chapter of my life? And it was about how can we actually solve how our brains respond to stressors? And what would that look like if we had a world that had more resilience to that? What would that look like in terms of not only how we showed up in the world, but actually in terms of disease as well?
As we get older, you're a mother, carer, a scientist, an entrepreneur. But as we get older, our value structures change a bit. How has yours changed from the time you were at NASA to today? How do you view life?
That it is an absolute privilege to walk on this planet, that we are here to serve, would be my two biggest takeaways. We're here for such a short time, and I think that we all have an imperative to leave the planet just a little bit better than when we arrived.
Yeah, no, it's great, but it's interesting because we want to do that, but it's so difficult today when you got global warming, you've got so many different things out there, and yet so many opportunities with things like generative AI. Was it ChatGPT 5 today, actually? And these tools to be able to help us take care of the infobesity, the challenge. You said we're still running Stone Age software in our brains, right? The neurons and synapses, myelin sheaths. What does that mean in terms of how we handle stress today? And then I want to ask you a follow-up question that it's been perplexing me for the last couple of months.
Oh, I hope I can answer it. So our current stress rewiring is based on one single thing. It comes on, and it was designed to serve one single purpose, and that was all about movement. So if you can imagine, in older times, our stress would have come on when we needed to run away from danger or maybe run towards it in order to capture food. So our stress response, doesn't matter whether it's a physical, mental, whatever that stressor is, it activates systems that are about releasing glucose into the blood, get to the muscles, and allow us to move. Now, that hasn't changed. That wiring is just exactly as it was. And yet we have different stressors, don't we? And but our body still has just one way in which it responds to it. And that just, it's like, wow, no wonder we have a problem.
The one thing that, it's very interesting for me. So I remember about 1969, Garcia did a study, and it was about learned helplessness. And he used, you wouldn't do it today, but they used young chickens. And the thing is, they would use an electric shock to the bottom of the cage, and then we would have a sound. And the chicks actually would freeze. And when I see the kind of things that are happening with what I call infobesity, the data challenge, we're inundated. I mean, think about it, Jane. You're a really smart lady, right? But how many times in the last 3 weeks has somebody said, Jane, I sent you a message. Did you get it? Where'd you send it? I sent it to your email. Which one of the 7? And we go back through and we look and we say, when did you send it? A couple of days ago. Where did you send it? I don't remember. Let me check. I can't find it. Will you send it again? This infobesity data challenge, think about, you got about 300,000 items in your personal cloud. The entire web in 1996 was 257,000 websites. You have more information in personal cloud, the entire web. The problem is Jane's world is following the same trajectory. By that, I mean doubling every year. In 5 years with the Internet of Things, you're going to have 10 million items. So my thing is the stress, the data challenge, because, fear of the unknown. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're missing. So how does that play into this thing? And have you thought about that? I see it with people. In fact, they've kind of thrown up their hands with email, right? People don't even check email first. They're checking WhatsApp because it's a filter. It's insane.
Yeah. So you've got all of these inputs coming all the time, and the risk of that is that each time something happens, your cortisol, so that's your body's, it's a good hormone, by the way. We tend to give it a bad rap, by the way. It is triggered, you release it, and again, it's all about preparing your body for movement. And when that constantly gets triggered, maybe if you can't find that email, you're just putting that stress response on over time. That causes problems. That's where the problems come in, because your receptors that deal with cortisol become desensitized. Now that starts to be a real problem for us.
The other thing is, and I've just had this happen recently to me, or the last couple of years. So, and I've been in AI for 29 years, and tech 40 years actually in the Valley. But one of the things that's really interesting is using these superpowered tools like Perplexity, Anthropic, ChatGPT. You can answer the questions that you've had your whole life very quickly, right? It's not like you got to think about it. I'll give you, for instance, yesterday I had a problem with my Lexus, and I took a picture of the dashboard. I put it in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT told me what was probably wrong with it. And based on, the web, these are the remedies for this exact problem with this exact car, right? And so you don't have to be as stressed out. And how does that happen? Do you think tools like Perplexity, ChatGPT, or multi-agent LLMs will actually give us less stress because we don't have to be concerned about what the answer is to questions our whole life? We think about answers, how big is the universe, right? We think about it, but very few people know, or can conjecture about it. What do you think? Do you think it's going to impact us or not?
I think there could be some positive impacts, because it could just mean we could solve those types of questions faster. But I think where it'll never be able to replace is those human connections. So it'll never be able to be in a human relationship. So if you're in a relationship that causes you joy, that's fantastic. If you're in a relationship that you find stressful or difficult, if you have a difficult colleague at work, if you have a health illness that is causing you stress, none of these tools are going to help there. So to be really human, it's never going to play in that space. And that is, I think, really, really a relief.
Do you think, though, because you can use these tools to do things like sentiment analysis and to understand, in fact, right as we're doing this, it's actually going down through your profile, right? and it's actually coming up with questions for me right this second, actually.
Excellent.
So this multi-agent large language model, it's asking it's just right now, ask her this, right?
Cool.
So, but anyhow, I'm going to ask, it's saying, ask this, how does Sona actually work, and can you break down the science behind vagus nerve stimulation in simple terms?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a really long nerve in our body called the vagus nerve. I'm just going to move my camera just a little bit because I can see that it's a little bit dark. 1 second. It's because it's a bright evening here. There we go. So we have a really long nerve in our body called the vagus nerve. It's the longest nerve we have, and it has a couple of key roles. It has a role to reduce stress. So by activating, it's like a brake to your stress system. And it also, when you activate it, it can also open up the brain to learn new learning windows. So what we want to do is to be able to access this nerve in a really simple, easy way. We do it from the ear because it turns out we have a bit of old pipe work that we don't need that runs from the auricular branch. The auricular, if you stick your finger in your ear, into the top, just above your ear canal, goes from there into the brain. So our hypothesis is that we can activate that nerve by sending a really tiny little pulse. It goes down into the brainstem, it activates various brain regions, and then we measure how that is actually affecting by measuring physiology at the same time. So it's all about real-time feedback.
So you've mentioned that 2 minutes of stimulation can create a physiological response. What are some real-world examples of what users might experience during or after using Sona?
Well, what we've, and I'll tell you just based on the testers that we've had using it, is one, we can see a metric increase pretty quickly in a session. So heart rate variability, which is your interbit interval between your heart. It's a measure, a metric of your autonomic nervous system balance. So that's how balanced your sympathetic and parasympathetic system is. So we've got some data to say this is what happens, but also the feedback of what a lot of people say when they're having a session is it's like having an all over body massage without having an all over body massage. So that's quite a nice feeling. People quite like that. So the other sort of major feedback we have is people feel more connected, feelings of interoception, being able to sort of feel their body. So that is some sort of subjective.
What do you mean feel your body?
Sorry, what's that?
What do you mean feel your body?
So more aware of your body. So you might be able to feel your heart beating. You might just be able to do some simple visualization of where your body is and feeling this. I mean, I personally haven't felt that. I get the sort of feeling like I'm having a beautiful massage, but that's just what some of our testers have said back to us. So maybe that's because they're just feeling more connected.
Is that because of dopamine and acetylcholine?
I don't think it would be a dopamine response. Dopamine is a wonderful neurotransmitter for motivation, for getting up and doing things. And certainly the vagus nerve will have a role on that. But its main function around dopamine release is actually a part of the stress response that's really good. It encourages you to go and be social, encourages you to reach out to people, encourages you to have a conversation. So I don't think that feeling of interoception came from dopamine. And equally, probably not the acetylcholine as well. But all of this, all of our understanding about the brain is a voyage of discovery. I think of the brain as like same as discovering far off galaxies, which are unknown. There's so much we still don't understand about how our brain works.
No, I agree with you. I told you about the stem cells that I had, and I've had 2 full body stem cell replacements, and the amount of stress that I could take now compared to before are dramatically different. I don't know. I'd say 2 or 3 times as much stress as I could before. Because as you get older, there's you're less tolerant to stress, right? But this thing changes it, and I was, besides other things, right? Stage 3 kidney disease gone, cognitive abilities up. I mean, all kinds of other things it's frontier medicine. But it was quite interesting, mesenchymal stem cells. So these kind of things, you start to play those in, into longevity, because what you're saying is, from my perspective, your technology helps us live longer because we're living less stressed lives, and stress kills us. So having these tools like yours. So one question. So my multi-agent large language model told me, ask her this question. Mm-hmm. So it wants to know how, and I want to know how personalization works in the Sona system.
Sorry, 1 second. I've just got someone. Is it possible just to pause for thank you so much indeed. This lovely gentleman's come to clean the floors in here. I'm in an open space, which is lovely, but of course it's not perfect timing.
No, it's all right. Do you need time or?
No, that's fine. Sorry, repeat the question.
So, hyper personalization in Sona, that's door number one. And how does it work? And then, are you collecting real-time data from users? And do you use continuously sensing of the data to create tailored the simulation patterns?
So yes, we're collecting real-time data during the session. The optimization that we've done so far in the routines, if you were to use Sona, is to pair it with the respiratory cycle. So we can infer respiration, and the reason that's exciting is we know that if you practice meditation and you do long, slow exhales, that's the beautiful bit. So if we can pair stimulation in the ear with an activation through your breath work, that's the optimization we do in the routines at the moment. Ultimately, we'll be able to modulate, to change the stimulation parameters as we learn more. But in order to do that, we need a large enough data set to be able to know how to optimize. And because there are so many parameters that we can change with the stimulation, we can change the amplitude, we can change the shape of the wave that we're sending in, the duty cycle. It's a super exciting place of discovery.
So there's a lot of hype around wearables, right? And if you look at it, I talk about continuous sensing for everything, right? If we continually monitor with probability of being able to affect a change before it becomes a problem, dramatically changes our longevity, right? And the quality of our life. But what sets you apart, Sona apart, from Apple Watches and the Fitbits of the world? How do you fit in, and how do you wear it? Is it like a device that goes on your ear, or what is it?
Here she is. So she is a really simple, nice wearable. And the idea is that she sits over your ear so that you can still wear your earbuds or your earphones. So it's super nice and easy to put on. Mm-hmm. And the difference that she obviously has compared to an Oura Ring or anything is she's actually doing something. She's not just listening and reading signals, she's writing signals back into your brain. So, a partnership for us with an Oura Ring or a Whoop would be fantastic because we offer something that for their customers, if you see your HRV data, for example, trending down because a number of legitimate reasons why that can happen, there's only so far an Oura Ring can give you advice about what to do. Obviously, you can change lifestyle, and they're always going to be the first things to do, aren't they? But if you want something that actually is going to really have that impact, then that's the difference that we have.
That's fantastic. And what are some of the biggest engineering challenges or design challenges? I see what you just had, and I started looking at some of the tech. So you got these kind of things, but how did you go down through when you designed it? How did you create a device that works with something as variable as the human ear, right? Because different people have different sizes, and
absolutely,
that one may fit in one person. Can you customize it based on the aperture of the ear, or how does it work?
Yep. So we're designing for 6 billion ear shapes, and because every time you try it on, someone will say, "Oh, sorry, I've got a really weird ear." It's like, no, we've all got weird ears. They're just weird. And the way that we've overcome that is a lot of careful thought, a lot of testing, and it comes down to how the type of this is an earlier prototype, but it's how we apply pressure around the ear, but keeping some flexibility within the over the ear, and also how we have movement around where this inner electrode fits in the ear as well. So there are some really nice engineering solutions we've got, but we have learned the ear is it's nearly as unique as your fingerprint.
Mm-hmm. And how about what's the cost of that, Jane? What is the forecasted cost of it? Have you sold them, and what's the cost of it?
Yeah, we have made some pre-sales, so I'm going to talk in pounds at the moment. Apologies for not having a dollar figure ready in my mind, but for our Founders Edition, which is sort of special because it includes a lifetime access to the app, it's £695. And we have got pre-sales now. We've taken a limited number, and we're only planning to take a limited number between now and the end of this year.
One of the things is, one thing of the beauty about Silicon Valley is it's a port to the rest of the world. People get it, right? And it's really hard. I started one of the first e-commerce consulting companies in the world out of London. And when I did that, people just didn't get it. It was not that they weren't smart, but they were a lot slower, like you and I talked about. And I'm not saying this is bad, but that's not how Silicon Valley works.
Correct.
And the key is you got to get it out there, because this creates a holistic approach to health. And when you take all these ancillary pieces, so I have a cancer vaccine that's in our portfolio. We've got a device that, from a diagnostic standpoint, can tell if you can have cancer from your breath.
Yeah.
40 patents, 29 pending, those kind of things. And when you look at it, these create a holistic approach of how to live longer, because every time you reduce stress, you could pick up a couple of years in your lifespan.
Yeah.
And a better quality of life. Who wants to be stressed out?
Yeah. I think it's about healthy lifespan as much as lifespan. I have an elderly mother. She's 91. She doesn't live. I mean, she, and it's about the quality of life at 91 that's key, isn't it? It's about, and hers isn't fantastic. So I think that's the aim, isn't it? To be able to be your best, to keep giving, to have energy, and to live that, have that healthy lifespan.
I mean, when you do things like these mesenchymal stem cells, and you take and add another 5 or 10 years to your life, and the quality goes up, you can do things that you used to do 20 years ago, right? It's unbelievable.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, these are breakthrough. I was down there, by the way, maybe it's interesting for you, but I saw people with supranuclear cerebral palsy that literally couldn't walk. And I saw them within a week start moving around. I saw, if you listen to Joe Rogan, you can hear about Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson's father had stem cells done, live stem cells, and he had a heart attack, and virtually, a lot of the damage to his heart was taken care of, because they go through their IV. But he lived from 92 to 101.
Yeah.
Right? These kind of breakthrough technologies, we got to, think differently. And the beauty of what you've done with Sona is you've thought out of the box, and not everybody can do that. And you call yourself, I don't say this because I look at it an entirely different way. You call yourself an older female founder in deep tech, right? You've said that. In reality, you just have a lot more knowledge than a lot of people, because you've been around the block a few times, and very few people have that amount of knowledge and experiences. So how does that, how can you go down through, and how can we support diverse voices better? Because there should be a lot of other people that are there. And I'm one of them, right? I've been in tech 44 years in Silicon Valley, and, we're always learning. But how can we get down through and do it and stay in the mainstream? Because it does help us. You stay younger when you're active.
Yeah. Well, I always say that I'm, at the top of my game right now. My youngest is now 20. So this is my decade to, be selfish about what I want to give my time to. Love being a mother, but this is about just being able to step out in a different way. But I have found that it's, the world doesn't, I think there aren't that many role models for older women in doing this. I think you're perceived to sort of, I don't know, go off and do gentler things or something, but I'm just like, no, roaring with energy. But therefore you do stick out a little bit. And my experience because we've closed a pre-seed round at the beginning of this year, was a lot of the gatekeepers into some of the VCs that I was having conversations with were young guys. They were lovely. I mean, I always got on with them incredibly well, but I didn't fit in that set.
No, but here's the other thing is, Jane, the average, if you look at a VC, right? They're 24 to 33, 34. They've never built a company, only 10%. They have finance backgrounds from top tier universities, right? But they're actually, if you look at the limited partners in most of the funds, are high net worth individuals, family offices, or funds. You got insurance companies and pension fund, but, so if you go out of it, only 10% have ever built a company. How do they understand what you've done? You can't understand it. And I've been a VC, so I'm just telling you directly, it's a different game. So the key is, if you go out, the family offices, especially in med tech, just so you know, because 85% of the investments last year for a big sector of med tech is family offices, right? It's not the VCs, right? The family offices are behind it. And sometimes we forget. How do we think differently about funding? You're right about it. What are families concerned about? Longevity. They have doctors, concierge doctors, that work for them on their staff to continually do research. What you're doing is giving them a ray of light. At the same time, you got something that could help their company. Let's just say they're med tech family. They've invested in medical solutions, right? Imagine it. Look at some of these families. The Mars family has what, about half the pet food in the United States, and they've got veterinary clinics. Imagine the possibilities. So we got to think differently. And you've done it. You've gone down through and created that voice out there. How did you deal with them when you went in there and dealt? These are younger guys for the most part, right? But how did you deal with them? What was the trigger that flipped it to get them to want to invest in you?
I think it's building relationships, just getting to them to realize that actually I had a lot to, had the right type of skills that they were looking for in a founder, in terms of resilience, in terms of a vision for the product and what we were building, tell a compelling story about the problem that we were solving and how we were going to go about doing that. And when you're fundraising, you have a lot of no's, and that's often not because you're wrong or your product is wrong. It's because you don't fit with the funding thesis from your investor. So I just think resilience, just to sort of take what you can and learn from whatever it is, whatever pitch you've given, any feedback, and just pick yourself up. I'm married to a wonderful man, and he just just hit me around. Come on, Jane, get up, keep going.
Well,
metaphorically.
You go down through and. You get down through them when you're raising money. I think the whole system's screwed up because there's three things that are really important, in my opinion: operational expertise, access to capital, networking contacts. And if you have those three in a resilient team, any company can become a unicorn. And the problem is you got to put yourself in that situation. It's hard to do it if you're in London. It's hard to do it if you're in Amsterdam. If you're, Silicon Valley, people say, well, why Silicon Valley? And I'm not there right now. I'm in Palm Beach, actually. I'm not at our place in Palo Alto. But one of the things I say is because of the contacts. People get it. When you talk about solutions like yours and you're dealing with executives from places like Apple, they get it. They know what the deal is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they're thinking about forward-thinking technologies. Yeah. And if you don't put yourself in there, it's crazy. It's like going fishing, right? You're going fishing to a pond that has no fish or a few. So it's amazing to me, actually. This is like, the KISS principle, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Go where the fish are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyhow, let's fast forward 5 to 10 years. How do you think, where is Sona going to be? Is it going to be a consumer product? Is it going to be a medical product? Is it going to be both?
Well, we started as a medical product. I have done some really good preclinical work. I have done a little bit of a pivot to consumers, one because it's a question of speed, and people are wanting to buy this and wear it. And so we are launching as a consumer product without obviously making any medical claims. We're not as a regulated medical product, but there is still interest. We have a really strong team of clinical of advisors who want to run more studies. So they are down the line. There will be a sister for Sona. And she will be a regulated medical device. Our plan to use is to use grant funding to be able to complete the rest of the clinical studies that we would need in order to satisfy the regulatory authorities. But we're building her as within the frameworks for a medical device, even though she's going to be a consumer product available for anyone who thinks, make their world a better place.
We say in the Valley, when you look at it, it's like having a Ferrari in the garage. And a lot of times the founders, they never get the Ferrari out. I mean, they have their friends come over and look at it, but they never really get it out and drive it. But the most important thing is, what do you need? You got to look at the engine and transmission, the tires, aerodynamics, all the parts. And if you have people that have already won the race a couple of times, they can give you advice. And, oh, by the way, the sponsors come where people have been successful. It's really interesting. Elon Musk could go out and, he did a flamethrower, for God's sake, right? And people were buying a flamethrower. He could say anything and people would buy it, literally, It's unbelievable, but that's the way it really works. And the key is, it's winning the race. So you need all those pieces working as a team. The Germans have a phrase, Gestalt, the sum of the parts equal the whole. You need the engine and transmission. You need the right pit crew. You need the right driver. You need to have somebody that's already won the race a couple of times and say, listen, be careful going around that corner because there's an oil slick there. And at the same time, if you want to get sponsors, it's a whole lot easier if somebody has already won it and says, hey, listen, these are good people. I love the technology. It just works. And we forget it. This is like simple humanity. And it's we've taken it out because we're so interested in taking our product out. We forget about the mechanism behind how to make it successful. We took a company from a $0, literally zero, close to $0, to $1.35 billion exit. And so you go down through those stages, you start understanding, how this works. Unfortunately, you can't go to Cambridge or Harvard or Oxford and learn about entrepreneurship because it's diametrically opposed.
Yeah.
What is risk? I had $100,000 on a credit card one time, young, when I started my first company.
Yeah.
And people said, "You're crazy." I said, "But this is part of the deal.
Yeah.
This is how you make money. Use money and make money." Guess what I did?
Yeah,
That's
well done.
how it works. And so going down through this, I love what you have. For someone struggling with chronic stress today, especially someone who might be skeptical about tech as a solution, what would you say to them? And how do you make them feel confident?
So what I would say to them is try it. It's great to put Sona with other things you might be doing in your life that help you de-stress. So how can she fit and become a really lovely daily ritual or a daily habit for you alongside it? So if you like listening to chilled music, or you may be thinking you're going to do 10 minutes of quietness each day anyway, put Sona on at the same time. What she will do is amplify that and amplify the response your brain has to be doing those calm exercises. So I have a night ritual because I'm one of those women of that age, a menopausal woman whose sleep is not great. So she's part of my evening ritual. It's about putting on some absolutely beautiful music and just feeling my body relax, and then just straight to sleep. So it really depends what you're wanting to use her for and how you do it. We've got some other testers who have really busy brains. So, have ADHD, just those brains in the morning. A lot of founders I meet that because they've got obviously big brains, big ideas. And actually they want to be able to perform well in the morning. So actually, how can you use Sona in the morning to help you get into not go to sleep, but just calm that busy brain down. Just calm it down enough so you're in the optimal place for performing. There are other great clinical studies in the UK happening at the moment using not Sona because she's not yet a medical device, but pairing Sona with a Sona type device with physiotherapy. So for stroke, people recovering from stroke, and what's happening there is you're able to speed up the rate at which you're getting upper arm limb movements back in place. So that's obviously a particular use case, a clinical use case, but it's showing really, really compelling data.
No, I love it. I love what you're doing. Listen, we're coming. Rarely do I go over on the shows, but we're over a few minutes on this one. But closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you, Jane?
Oh, thank you. Well, find us at sona.help. Any questions? We just want to understand that more from anyone who's interested in using Sona. What would make you comfortable to give her a go? And I'll reach out to anyone who gets in touch.
Sounds great. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Pleasure. It's a lovely evening here. Well, it's actually a cloudy evening here in London, but it's a pleasure to talk with you, Gary, and to be on your show.
Sure, absolutely. We can talk a few minutes after the show's over. And to all of you out there, thank you for joining one more time. GSD presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. This is Top Global Startups, and I'm your host, Gary Fowler. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. We'll be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. Thanks, everybody, and thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you.